In this video, we're going to review how you find the missing sides of a right triangle using the trigonometric ratios. So you start by looking at which angle you'd like to use. I tend to use the angle that was given, 37 degrees. You could also figure out what this angle is up here and use that one as well, since you know all the angles add up to 90 degrees. After you figured out which angle you're going to use, you decide what each side is in reference to that angle. So this 8 inches here is adjacent to your 37 degrees. And I realize we can't really see that color, so let me switch to a brighter color. This angle over this side, so whenever we're talking about adjacent, etc., we're talking about sides. This is the opposite to 37 degrees. And then this side right here is, of course, the hypotenuse. What you want to do next is think about which side you know and which side you are looking for. So right now you know the adjacent, and you are looking for either the hypotenuse or the opposite. So you can start with either one you want. Say we start with adjacent and hypotenuse. So then I go to my trig ratios and I see that the cosine ratio is the ratio of the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So I need the cosine ratio for 37 degrees, which I can look up in my calculator, and that should equal the ratio of 8 inches over the hypotenuse, which let's just call that C. So I've set up my ratio on both sides. I grab my calculator and see that the cosine of 37 degrees is approximately 0.80, and that's very much an approximation. I've rounded, so I need to make sure that I switch now to my squiggly equal signs. I like to get my variable out of the denominator by multiplying both sides by that number, and now I have 0.80c equals approximately 8 inches. I will divide both sides by 0.8, and I will be left with 8 divided by 0.8 gives me C is approximately 10 inches. From here, I have two options. I can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side, or I can go back and use my trig ratios again. I actually am going to choose here to use my trig ratios. This is an approximation, this 10 inches. So the more that I approximate and use my approximations, the further my answers get. If I stick with going back to what I was originally given, I'm more likely to get a more precise answer. So now I'm looking at opposite and adjacent as the two sides that I need. I glance at my card and it turns out the tangent ratio is the ratio of the opposite over the adjacent. Once again, I grab my calculator and I find that the tangent of 37 degrees is approximately 0.75. Again, this is very much an approximation, equals A over 8 inches. In order to get A all by itself, the inverse of dividing by 8 is to multiply by 8. So I multiply both sides by 8. And then I am left with whatever 0.75 times 8 is, which is approximately 6. So A is approximately 6 inches. Again, these are very much approximations. I have rounded these numbers here. My ratios that I got out of my calculator have been rounded, which means that every time I round, I get less precise and less away from the correct answer. But that is one way we can find the missing sides of a right triangle.